I was talking to a client the other day about the different stages in life, these pivotal or transformational moments, right? Leaving home, starting a new career path, possibly finding a partner and having kids, midlife, and finally making work optional. And each of these shifts or these stages bring with it new challenges and new rewards. And so today I want to talk about 8 things you need to stop doing as you enter the next stage in life, as you move towards retirement or as you enter retirement. But first, my name's Kevin Lum. I'm a certified financial planner, and this channel is dedicated to helping 1 million people retire without worry. First, stop putting off experiences with friends and family. I came across an idea recently that kind of stopped me in my tracks. There's a writer by the name of Sahil Bloom, and he talks about as he turned 40, he realized that his time with his parents was limited, and not in some vague sentimental way. He actually did the math and he realized if he only saw his parents a few times a year, the number of visits that he probably had left with his parents was something like 15. And it really reoriented the way that he approached his life. And that idea really stuck with me. Whether it's friends or family, we have a limited amount of time to spend with the people we love. I was thinking about my own daughter. One of the things that Sahil talks about is that by the time a kid turns 18, that a parent has spent 95% of the time that they're going to spend with them. And so I realized that there is a limited number of times I'm going to be able to tell her bedtime stories and a limited number of soccer games and a limited number of school drop-offs. And all those are countable. And when you begin to see it that way, it changes how you want to spend your time and your money. And here's what I've seen from clients who get this right. They start treating experiences like investments, not expenses. Someone told me recently that they used to feel guilty about spending $3,000 on a big trip with their friends. Then they told me they realized they're spending almost that much on insurance every year for a car they never drove. Money can't buy more time, but it can buy a flight to see someone you love while they're still here and while you're still able to. The shift you need to make here is simple. Stop waiting for the perfect time. Your knees are not getting any better. Your energy is not going up. Your loved ones are not getting any younger. One other thing from Sahil's book that really stuck with me is he had a couple graphs, and he had the graph like the time that we have to spend with family. And as we age, the number of hours that we spend with family and friends begins to decline. At the same time as we age, the amount of time that we spend alone begins to skyrocket. And so why I'm so passionate about this is that I often see people putting off things because they're afraid to spend the money. Don't be foolish. Make sure you have the money to spend, get a good financial plan, but then invest in experiences. Number two, and I borrowed this concept from Morgan Housel, but stop using money as a scoreboard. Use it as a tool. I think about this a lot because in the accumulation phase of our life, when we are working, we use money as a scoreboard to give us an idea of how we're doing in life, how we're doing on our journey towards retirement. We log into Schwab or we log into Fidelity, we log into whatever platform we use, and we see that that number has ticked up a bit and it feels good. It feels like we're winning. And when it goes the opposite way and it ticks down, we feel bad. It feels like we're losing. But here's the problem with seeing money as a scoreboard. It never tells you when you've won. There's always someone with a higher score. There's always someone with a higher account balance. You hit 1 million and you want 2. You hit 2 million and you wonder what it would be like to have 3 million. And it never ends. So here's the shift you should make. Stop seeing money as a scoreboard, as a way to see how you're doing in life, and instead begin to view money as a tool to do the things you want to do. Scoreboards breed envy. Tools help you build the life you want. Scoreboards create anxiety and moving goalposts because there's never enough. Tools create freedom and options. I had someone reach out to me once who could not enjoy the retirement because they were afraid to spend money from their portfolio because they're afraid if they spent the money, the value in the portfolio would begin to decline and they would be miserable. Now, they had about $3.2 million in their portfolio and they only needed about 1.8 to fully fund the retirement. And not just fund it, but have a great retirement with a nice margin of safety. But he couldn't see that because all he saw was that money was a scoreboard, how he was doing in life. And so he could never spend the money. And here's why this matters. If you spend 30 to 40 years measuring your score, measuring your success in dollars, retirement can feel terrifying because now that number should start going down. And when it does, it's going to feel like you're losing. So we have to reframe this and we have to ask this question: what job do I want my money to do? Do I want to provide security, freedom, legacy, experiences? And once you answer that question, it helps to begin making every other decision just a bit clearer. The portfolio is not the point. The life it funds, the experiences it funds. That's the point. So the second thing you should stop doing is stop using money as a scoreboard. Instead, use it as a tool. Number three, stop thinking about money all the time. This is related to what we just said. And again, I'm giving credit to Morgan Housel, but I see this all the time. The people who think about money nonstop are usually the least happy people I meet. They know their net worth to the penny. They can tell you the Fed's funds rate, but they struggle to tell you what their grandkids are into. Listen, there's nothing wrong with valuing money. There's nothing wrong with appreciating money and respecting money. But if money never leaves your mind, that's not being responsible. That's being held captive. Here's a simple test. Can you go on a vacation without checking your account? Can you sit at dinner with your friends without steering the conversation back to the markets? Money can be an incredible tool in our lives, but left unchecked, it has the ability to consume our thoughts. And I'm going to say something a bit self-serving because this is how I make my money, but I believe this is why a great financial planner is worth the money you pay them, because you are basically paying someone to hold the anxiety for you so you can enjoy your life. I've watched clients go from being constantly anxious about their money to actually enjoying their retirement, sleeping better, laughing more, being more present instead of constantly monitoring their accounts. Now, listen, I believe you should have a plan. You need to know you're going to be okay. You need to run your numbers and know your numbers. I don't have a problem with that. But what I see is often people pay attention to every tiny bump in the market that's not going to make any difference to their plan. In fact, often a large downturn is not going to make a difference to many people's plans if they've developed it properly. But every time they get a tiny bump in the market, they're obsessed. Wait, how am I doing? How much money have I lost? They know to a dollar how much money that downturn cost them. And so what you need to do is you need a plan. You need to know your numbers. You need to know if you're going to be all right. This is not some kind of Pollyanna pie in the sky. Oh, don't worry about money. No, you need to know your numbers. You need to know if your retirement is going to be okay. You need to know if you're spending too much money or if you could be spending more. So I'm not telling you not to ever think about money, but once you know your plan and you know you're going to be okay, stop obsessing over it. Stop constantly checking your accounts. Stop worrying about every bump in the market. I talk to people who, they know to a penny how much a particular market drop costs them. But what it ends up doing is it's causing a ton of anxiety inside of them, right? It steals their joy. It causes them to be focusing on things that really ultimately aren't that important. Now, look, again, I am not against having a plan. I'm not against knowing your numbers and knowing if you're going to be okay. But once you've run the numbers and you know you're going to be okay, focus on some other things that have ultimate value. Number 4, stop saving blindly. Now, this needs a bit of nuance. I need to be careful here. Some of you are not done saving. You need to continue saving and you need to save more. If you are behind in your retirement savings, keep saving. But a lot of you need to hear this. You have already won the retirement game, but you're still playing like you're behind. Here's what I mean by you've won the retirement game. Your essential expenses are covered. Your emergency reserves are fully filled. You've stress tested your plan against all kinds of different market scenarios, and you have an incredibly high probability of success. You've run income lab numbers and you know that you have a high spending capacity. If that's you, then continuing to save the same way you did 20 years ago, it could be causing you to work longer than you need to and often delaying you from spending money on other things that you value. And one of the shifts you need to make, if that's you, is moving from maximum accumulation to purposeful deaccumulation. Spend your money intentionally on your people, on family, on causes, on experiences. What I hope you hear from this is that saving is good. I am all for saving money. You should be saving money. But there is a point where you aren't saving money because it's the thing you need to do, but because it's automatic and fearful, right? And it's keeping you from living the life and doing the things you want to do because all you're thinking about is, I need to accumulate more. I need to accumulate more. And there's a point where you have to move from an accumulation stage. And this is a very difficult shift to make. You have to move from accumulation to deaccumulation. And I like to think of it as purposeful deaccumulation, right? Being smart about the way you're spending your money so that it aligns with your values. I always tell clients that money is just a means to an end. We have to give it a purpose. We have to guide it and direct it. Number 5, stop buying things. Instead, buy time and buy independence. Now, this, of course, has some nuance, right? It's fine to buy some stuff. But when you buy stuff, you are voting for a life of maintaining stuff, cleaning it, insuring it, storing it, worrying about it, working to afford more of it. And when you buy time and independence, you are voting for freedom, for options, for flexibility. Let me give you an example. I was talking to someone who was torn between buying a vacation home and just renting wherever they wanted to go. The vacation home would tie up, I think it was like $800,000 and cost maybe $30,000 a year in taxes and repair and upkeep. Or they could spend $40,000 a year renting incredible places all over the world. No maintenance, no property tax, no being chained to one location. This person chose flexibility, and they told me a few years later they'd stayed in 12 different countries and seen all kinds of things, and they had zero regrets. Now, I am not anti-stuff. I love technology and I love gear. I have my weaknesses, things that I spend too much money on. But we have to be honest. Most physical purchases feel good for a moment, and then they just become another thing that we have to deal with. And one of the things that's going to happen as we begin to age, as we begin to enter this new stage in life, we're in the point where we want to begin to deaccumulate stuff and not accumulate more stuff. And so we need to ask ourselves as we buy things, will this purchase give me more freedom or less freedom? Will it give me time or more obligations? If it's less freedom and more obligations, then maybe you need to rethink the purchase. In fact, one of the most popular videos I ever did was on 5 things that retirees regret buying. And a couple of those things are things like boats and RVs, right? Because we think they're going to make us happy, but in reality, they end up just adding to our obligations, adding to our frustrations, and taking away our time. So number 5, stop buying things and buy time and buy independence. Number 6, stop taking your health for granted. Your most valuable asset is not your portfolio, it's your health. I've seen people with millions and millions of dollars in their portfolio that becomes irrelevant overnight because of a health event. I've also seen people with very average savings living ridiculously rich lives because they still had their health and they still had their energy. And at the risk of sounding a bit preachy, at 60, you are not too old to get in shape, but you are too old to keep putting it off. And I say this as someone who's in their mid-40s who really struggles to find the time to keep themselves healthy. It takes a commitment. It's not easy, but spend the money you need, spend the time you need to get healthy. If you need to hire a trainer, or join a gym, or buy a home gym equipment. Do whatever it is that you need to do that removes the excuses. For me, that means a home gym, right? I never could make it to the gym. Life was too busy. And so I built a home gym, which is literally on the other side of the wall from where I'm recording this video. And every morning I try to spend about 30 minutes working out because I realized if I had to go to the gym, I wasn't going to go to the gym. But if I made it to where I had to walk to the gym to get to where I do my work, then maybe I was a bit more likely to get that work done. So spend the money that you need to get healthy, whatever it is. If it's hiking or if it's riding bikes, or find the thing that works for you. This is not a one size fits all. There's not one thing that helps everyone. Find what works for you and then get moving. Next, spend money on eating well. Eating healthy costs more money. Vegetables are more expensive than kind of empty calories. But do whatever it is you need to do to eat healthy, to move. It may mean having something done that's holding you back from working out. So one of my clients told me recently that one of the best investments he ever made was $10,000 on a hip replacement that he'd been delaying. Now, I'm not saying you should go out and get a hip replacement. He said, I feel like I've gotten 5 years of my life back. And being strong and mobile and not being in pain makes everything else in life easier. It makes travel easier and playing with the grandkids easier. It makes saying yes instead of I'm not up for it easier. Your future self will thank you for every walk and for every stretch and for every healthy food option you make and for every squat that you choose. Your future self will thank you. And as someone on this journey with you who's trying to eat healthier and trying to work out more, It is not easy, and there is no shame in not hitting your goals and your targets and doing everything just right. But every time that I kind of fall behind, I just try to. And I have to say this, as someone who is on this journey with you of trying to eat healthier and trying to be more active, it's a constant battle. Some days I don't live up to my own expectations, and I have to give myself a little bit of grace, and I start again the other day. But what I do know is that one of the most valuable assets you have in life is not your portfolio value, but it's your health. And so whatever you have to do to invest in your health, do it. Number 7, stop pretending to be someone you're not. Anytime you buy something to keep up an image that isn't really you, you're paying a money tax, a stress tax, a time tax, a freedom tax, and honestly, an authenticity tax. For some people, it looks like pretending they love to play golf when they'd really rather be inside reading. For others, it's doing international travel when they'd rather stay at home and garden. One of my favorite stories, I'd met someone once at a party who had sold his business and made a ton of money, and he bought a Lamborghini. And one night over dinner, he leaned over and said, "Can I tell you something I've literally never told anyone else? I hate this car. It's loud, it's uncomfortable, I'm terrified I'm gonna scratch it, and I hate driving it." Why? I honestly have no idea why, but somehow he had to keep up an image and he could not let that go. Well, this is your permission. You don't have to like wine. You don't have to get modern art. You don't have to say the opera was life-changing, whatever the thing is. But you are at a stage in life where you're allowed to like what you like and skip what you don't. Retirement is your chance to stop performing and to start living. Number 8, stop trying to time the market. I can tell you that the happiest retirees are not the ones who guessed the market right. They're the ones who had a process and stuck to it. Every week I get emails from people who watch this channel of something along the lines of, should I get out of the market? Is a crash coming? Should I wait to get back in? When should I get back into the market? Here's what I know. People asking that question in 2012 missed a giant run up in the market. People asking that in March of 2020 missed one of the fastest rebounds we've ever seen. My crystal ball is always very foggy or dusty. I have no idea when the market is going to go up and when the market is going to go down. But what I do know is that you need a plan that works in multiple market seasons, right? You need cash for near-term spending, and then you probably should have some sort of high-quality bonds for stability. This is not investment advice, just general smart planning, right? So you probably should have something in your portfolio for stability. Often people use bonds. You can look for other things. Stocks tend to provide long-term growth. Here's what you do instead. Build a plan that works in good times and in bad times. When we put together a portfolio for clients, we're thinking of the good days, but we're also thinking of the bad days. And this is why we use the bucket strategy, right? So we have some money set aside for when the markets are going to tank, and they are going to tank. We don't know when that's going to be, and timing the market is a fool's errand, but not having a backup strategy for when that crash happens is just as foolish. I think of investing in the market a bit more like farming. Farmers have no idea what the weather is going to do from one year to the next, but they prepare, they diversify, and good farmers keep reserves for bad seasons. That's how you should invest in retirement. Personally, I love the bucket strategy, but find whatever works for you. But you need a plan. Timing is stress. Having a process brings peace of mind. One of the things I love about the different stages in life, these different pivots, these different stages, that each stage offers us a new opportunity to start from scratch, right? When you first start your career, everything's fresh. When you first start college, everything is fresh. When you first get married, everything is fresh. You start with a clean slate. As you graduate from your working years to your retirement years, you have a chance to start from scratch and to build the life you want to live. If anything resonated with you in this video, I'd love it if you'd let me know in the comments. I try to read and engage with them as much as I can. And if you are thinking about retirement, you want to begin planning retirement, I'm going to make the software that I use to help clients prepare for retirement. I'm going to make that available to you to use for 90 days. It's called Right Capital. You can use this QR code, or I will put a link in the comments below. And if you are entering retirement and you're like, I don't know where to spend money from, here is one of the most popular videos that we've done on where to withdraw money. You can watch it now.